Hello students. This lecture deals with the many questions addressed in the field of life and time management. As a long-time student of management, I think the essence of management lies in the area of time management, which can be captured in a single phrase: organize and execute around priorities. Have you ever packed a suitcase and noticed how much more you can fit inside when you neatly fold and organize your clothes instead of just throwing them in? It is really quite surprising. The same goes for your life. The better you organize yourself, the more you will be able to pack in. More time for family and friends, more time for college, more time for yourself, more time for your first things. Sean Covey has given an amazing model called the time quadrants that can help you pack more in especially important things. It is made up of two primary ingredients: important and urgent. Important: your most important things, your first things, activities that contribute to your mission or goals. Urgent: pressing things, in your face things, activities that demand immediate action. In general, we spend our time in 4 time quadrants. Each quadrant contains different kinds of activities and is represented by a type of person. We live in a society that is addicted to urgency. It's the now generation. That is why we have instant noodles, crash diets, fast food, cell phones and so on. Urgent things aren't bad necessarily. The problem comes when we become so focused in urgent things, we put off important things that aren't urgent, like working on a report in advance or visiting a dentist or going for a walk in the meadows. All these important things get pushed aside by urgent things like phone calls, interruptions, other people's problems. As we dig deeper into each quadrant, ask yourself, what quadrant am I spending most of my time? Let's examine the quadrants in detail. Quadrant 1, the procrastinator. Let's start with Q1 things that are both urgent and important. There will always be Q1 things that we can't control and that must get done, like helping a sick child or meeting an important deadline. But we also cause many Q1 headaches because we procrastinate, like when we put off doing homework and then have to cram all night for a test, or when we neglect our car for too long and then have to take it in to get repaired. Q1 is a part of life, but if you are spending too much time on Q1, believe me, you will be a stress case and you will seldom be performing to your potential. Meet the procrastinator who hangs out in Q1. Perhaps you know her. Her motto is, "I'm going to stop procrastinating sometime soon." Don't expect her to work on a paper or study for a test until the night before. And don't expect her to take time to get gas. She is usually too busy driving. The procrastinator is addicted to urgency. She likes to put things off until it becomes a crisis. But she likes it that way because, you see, doing everything at the last minute gives her a rush. In fact, her mind won't kick into gear until there is an emergency. She thrives under pressure. Planning ahead is simply out of the question for the procrastinator because it would ruin the excitement for doing everything at the last possible moment. The procrastinator reminds me of the comedian who said, "My mom always told me that I would be a procrastinator." I replied, "You just wait." The results of too much time in Q1 are stress and anxiety, burnout, mediocre performance. Quadrant 2, we'll reserve the best for the last. Quadrant 3, the yes man. Q3 represents things that are urgent but not important. It is characterized by trying to please other people and responding to their every desire. This quadrant is deceptive because urgent things have the appearance of being important. In truth, they are often not. For example, a ringing phone is urgent, but often the conversation is so unimportant. Q3 is loaded with activities that are important to other people but not important to you. Things that you would like to say no to but can't because you are afraid you might offend someone. Meet the yes man of Q3, who has a real hard time saying no to anything or anyone. He tries so hard to please everyone that he usually ends up pleasing no one, including himself. He often caves into peer pressure because he likes to be popular and he wouldn't want to stand out. His motto is, "Tomorrow I'm going to be more assertive, if that's okay with you." When his friends dropped by unexpectedly one evening and wanted him to go cruising till dawn, he just couldn't muster up enough courage to turn them down. He didn't want to disappoint his buddies. It didn't matter that he was taking some big test the next morning and needed to study and get sleep. I think all of us have a little Q3 inside of us, but we won't accomplish much if we say yes to everything and never learn to focus on what's important. Comedian Bill Cosby has said it well. "I don't know the key to success, but the key to failure is to try to please everyone." Q3 is one of the worst quadrants to be in because it has no backbone. It's fickle and will blow whichever way the wind is blowing. The results of spending too much time in Q3 are reputation of being a pleaser, lack of discipline, feeling like a doormat for others to wipe their feet on. Quadrant 4, the slacker. Q4 is the category of waste and excess. These activities are neither urgent nor important. Meet the slacker who loafs about in Q4. He loves anything in excess, like too much TV, too much sleep, too many video games, or too much time on the web. Two of his favorite pastimes include regular 3-hour phone calls and mall marathon each weekend. He is a professional loafer. Sleeping in until noon takes real skill after all. He absolutely loves comic books. In fact, he reads several dozen a week. He has never had a job, but he is young and has his health. So why would he want to work? School, of course, is the last thing on his mind. He'd rather, just hang out. Going to movies, chatting on the web, or just hanging out are part of a healthy lifestyle. It's only when they are done in excess that they become a waste of time. You'll know when you cross that line. Watching the first TV show might be just what you need to relax, and that's okay. But watching the second, third, or even fourth show, a rerun that you've seen 6 times until 2 a.m. turns a relaxing evening into a wasted one. The results of living in Q4 are lack of responsibility, guilt, flackiness. Quadrant 2, the prioritizer. Now back to Q2. Q2 is made up of things that are important but not urgent, like relaxation, building friends, exercising, planning ahead, and doing homework on time. It's the quadrant of excellence, the place we want to be. Q2 activities are important, but are Q2 activities urgent? No, and that's why we have trouble doing them. For example, getting a good summer job may be important to you, but since it's weeks away and not urgent, you may put off looking for that job until it's too late and suddenly all the good jobs are filled. Had you been in Q2, you would have planned ahead and found a better job. It wouldn't take more time, just a little more planning. Meet the prioritizer. Although she's by no means perfect, she's basically got it together. She takes a look at everything she has to do and then prioritizes, making sure her first things get done first and her last things last. Because she has the simple but powerful habit of planning ahead, she is usually on top of things. By doing her homework on time and writing her papers in advance, she does her best work and avoids the stress and burnout that come from cramming. She makes time to exercise and renews herself, even if it means pushing aside other things. The people who matter most in her life, like her friends and family, come first. Although it's a struggle, staying balanced is important to her. She changes the oil in her two-wheeler regularly, and she doesn't wait until she's running on fumes to fill up the gas. She loves going to movies, surfing the net, and reading suspense novels, but never lets those activities too far. She's learned how to say no with a smile. When her friends drop by unexpectedly, one evening to go to a party, she said, "No thanks, I have a huge test tomorrow." "But how about Friday night? Let's get together then." Her friends were okay with that and secretly wished they had had the courage to say no as well. She's learned that resisting peer pressure appears unpopular at first, but people come to respect her for it. The results of living in Q2 are control of your life, balance, high performance. So in which quadrant are you spending majority of your time? 1, 2, 3 or 4? Since in reality we all spend time in each quadrant, the key is to shift as much time as possible in Q2. And the only way you'll find more time for Q2 is to reduce the amount of time you spend in other quadrants. Here is how to do that. Shrink Q1 by procrastinating less. Say no to Q3 activities. Cut down on Q4 slacker activities. In addition to spending more time in Q2, consider 2 other suggestions to help you better manage your time and put first things first. Pick up a planner and plan weekly. Pick up a planner. So to start with, I highly recommend using a planner of some sort that has a calendar and space to write down appointments, assignments, to-do lists and goals. It will remind you when your papers are due and tests are to be taken. You can keep all your important information like telephone numbers, web addresses, birthdays in one place instead of 50 scraps of paper. A planner is not meant to be a master but a tool to help you live your life. Plan weekly. Take 15 minutes each week to plan your week and just watch what a difference it can make. Why weekly? Because we think in weeks and because daily planning is too narrow a focus and monthly is too broad a focus. Once you have a planner of some sort, follow this 3-step weekly planning process. Step 1. Identify your challenges. At the end or beginning of each week, sit down and think about what you want to accomplish for the upcoming week. Ask yourself, what are the most important things I need to do this week? They are sort of mini goals and should be tied into your mission statement and longer term goals. Not surprisingly, you'll find that most of them will be quadrant 2s. You might come up with a list of big challenges that look something like this. Study for a science test, finish reading a novel, attend a football match, complete employment application, party with friends, exercise 3 times. As you are identifying your challenges for the week, don't get carried away. Although you may feel you have many tasks to accomplish, be realistic and narrow your focus to no more than 10 to 15 tasks a week. Step 2. Block out time for your big challenges. Have you ever seen the big rock experiment? You get a bucket and fill it half full of small pebbles. You then try to fill several big rocks in the bucket on top of the pebbles. But they don't all fit. So you empty the bucket and start over. This time you put the big rocks in the bucket first, followed by the pebbles. The pebbles neatly fill in the spaces around the big rocks. This time it all fits. The difference is the order in which the rocks and the pebbles were placed in the bucket. If you put the pebbles in first, the big rocks don't all fit. But if you put the big rocks in first, everything fits, big rocks and pebbles. Big rocks represent your most important things. Pebbles represent the little everyday things that suck up your time, such as chores, busy work, phone calls and interruptions. The moral of the story is, if you don't schedule your big challenges first, they won't get done. Step 3. Schedule everything else. Once you have your big challenges booked, schedule in all of your other little to-dos, daily tasks and appointments. Here's where the pebbles go. You may also want to look ahead on your calendar and record upcoming events and activities like a vacation, concert or a birthday. Adapt daily. With your weekly plan in place, adapt each day as needed. You'd probably need to rearrange some big rocks and pebbles now and then. Try your best to follow your plan, but if you don't accomplish everything you set out to do, no big deal. If this weekly planning method feels too rigid or complicated, don't scrap it entirely. Just do weekly planning light. For example, you may find you only want to schedule 2 or 3 challenges for the week, and that's about it. The point is, the simple act of planning ahead each week will help you focus on your big challenges and consequently accomplish so much more. You can be in control of your life once you come to grips with time management. Time not managed wisely can lead to stress. Let's see what stress is. Stress management. In common usage, stress usually refers to an event or succession of events that cause a response, often in the form of distress, but also in some cases referring to a challenge that leads to a feeling of exhilaration, as in good stress. Stress has been with us since the beginning of time. As a part of our response to any challenge or stimulus, it has been proved as a positive force, aiding our continued survival and providing dynamism to a mere passive existence. Shaping our lifestyle, setting the tempo, or determining the rhythm of our daily existence, stress can generate the impetus to convert thoughts into action. The action may be conducting an orchestra, running a race, escaping from fire, or meeting a deadline in office. But the present day life's challenges are more complex than they used to be. Living in an age of immense and increasingly rapid change, we are subjected to greater, more insistent and inescapable pressure. In trying to balance between too much and too little, stress has become an integral challenge of our lives. Researchers suspect that many of us are becoming too addicted to our own increased levels of stress and constantly need a greater challenge as a self-prescribed antidote to fight stress. Stress is not only a problem for people living in the fast track. Those who suffer excessive monotony, boredom, frustration because of insufficient challenge also suffer from stress. This can be through lack of arousal of interest, anxiety or anger, as they feel that they have little control over their lives or work. Boredom, envy, loss of self-esteem that result from unemployment are also common sources of stress. Causes of stress. Global macro stress. It is caused by socio-economic changes, new government legislations, political developments, environmental threats. Corporate stress. There can be many reasons for corporate stress. The main reasons can be enumerated as poor communication, changes in technology, mergers and takeovers, restructuring of company liquidation, threat of unemployment, inadequate training, lack of direction, lack of managerial support, insensitivity to employees. Individual stress. The causes for individual stress are poorly defined goals, numerous and varied responsibilities, financial problems, relationship issues, self-doubt, illness and aging. Consequences of stress. We need to consider symptoms and signs in terms of acute and chronic consequences of stress. Symptoms include sweating, rapid heart rate, dilated pupils and acute blood pressure. For short periods, high level of stress may be associated with increased productivity, greater personal achievement and even a sense of exhilaration. However, if the stress continues for long periods, productivity and efficiency begin to fall rapidly and symptoms of overload may appear. Symptoms vary greatly and occur at different levels and intensities in different people. The more important symptoms are as tiredness and lethargy, commonly associated with changes in sleeping patterns, particularly early morning waking and difficulty in getting off to sleep. Loss of interest, apathy, boredom and depression. Feeling of anxiety, tension and fear. Physical symptoms like sweating, palpitation, indigestion, disturbed bowel function, breathlessness and headaches. Poor concentration and memory. Indecisiveness, increase alcohol, cigarette and drug consumption. More often than not, an individual will deny such symptoms exist even when the symptoms are glaringly obvious to family members, friends and colleagues. These symptoms may also include reduced performance, increased absenteeism, excess irritability and frequent mood swings, emotional instability, extreme fatigue, nervousness, depression. Long-term consequences. In the long term, the individual who suffers chronic, unremitting stress may be placing himself at risk of serious illness or even death. In recent years, there has been increasing recognition of the relationship between stress and a variety of diseases. Stress is one of the major reasons for diseases like eczema, heart diseases, ulcers, vomiting, migraine, nausea, indigestion, obesity and many others. Experimental evidence suggests that under prolonged stress, the body's ability to fend off diseases may be seriously impaired because its immune system is damaged. Techniques to manage stress. To avoid problems associated with stress, people need to manage their stress. Before they can manage their stress, however, they need to decide whether they need professional help or self-help is enough. There are some stress management techniques to enable people to cope up with stress. Physical exercise. One of the most obvious ways to relieve stress is to do what the body was meant to do under those circumstances: physical activity. More precisely, exercise proves to be an excellent mechanism for stress reduction. Practical tips for using exercise to reduce stress are: do exercise that work your leg muscles, jog in place, do spot running, climb stairs or use a stair stepper, take a brisk walk, use a treadmill, use short bursts of muscular energy like the PT exercises learnt in school. Regular and moderate physical activity alters the stress response by examining the entire system from the brain to individual cells. Massage. Massage therapy done regularly helps to reduce levels of stress. Massage helps to improve sleep and reduce anxiety and depression. Massage helps to improve cognitive performance in children as well as adults. Massage helps in relieving throbbing pain. Massage is relaxing and helps to focus better. Breathe to relax. Nature has provided a perfect way to help activate our relaxation response, and it involves an involuntary bodily function that we can consciously control: our breathing. Nothing is more convenient than using our breath to bring ourselves back to balance. Just a few mindful breaths can shift our experience. A breathing exercise you can do right now. Exhale completely. Then slowly breathe in through your nose. Expand your diaphragm, belly, to bring air into the lower portion of your lungs. As you gradually fill your lungs from bottom to top, expand your chest. At the end, lift your shoulders for a last bit of volume. Briefly pause your breathing. Then relax and let the air flow smoothly and fully out through your mouth. Pull in your stomach at the end to expel the last bit of air. Enjoy the emptiness for a few seconds. Then begin another breath. As you do this a few times, pay attention to the sound and sensation of your breath. If you get lightheaded first, then breathe normally. Psychological techniques. Psychological answers to cope up with stress in everyday life can give some degree of control in difficult situations. Some practical suggestions include: derail your train of thoughts. Try to slow down and stop the everyday onslaught of thought that wears you out. Practice meditation. Unlike prayer, where you are talking, meditation is more akin to listening. Your breath is the most natural thing to tune into. Just observe your breathing. Pursue a hobby. Many people find a hobby a nice diversion. Try and choose an activity that requires active participation. Use your sense of humor. Before you react to some stressor, first try becoming an observer whose job is to find the humor in the situation. Cry to release stress. Crying is another one of nature's stress relieving strategies. Tears release a lot of stress related chemicals. Simple tips for stress reduction using your thoughts and emotions. See problems as opportunities for growth. Do not take all things personally. There is no right answer to every problem. It is not a perfect world. Let go of some things. This too shall pass. Refute negative thoughts. Stop overgeneralizations. Control yourself and not others. Be yourself. Remember, frustration is a function of our expectations, and all our expectations are often a reflection of the social mirror rather than our own values and priorities. Thank you.